They're declaring war on the American people. We are now at war with our own government. The government has started the war, and I want to be very careful about this because I don't support and encourage violence, because the first side that starts shooting will be seen as the bad guys in the court of world opinion.
And that's why they're losing, because they're beating old women, they're having police dogs attack them, they're being caught provocateuring to make it look like we're throwing stuff first. You're absolutely right. Mike, do you agree with me? They're losing the PR battle big time, but they're so arrogant, their hubris is carrying them through?
That's exactly right. What we're dealing with here is Rivero's law of mid-management. We have got all these super elites, most of whom are Cold War fossils who grew up in an age where the government could say and do anything and get away with it. And they're sitting on top of all these mid-level bureaucrats who want to keep their jobs. And so these mid-level bureaucrats are saying, oh, yes, it's all working. They believe you. They still love the political leadership. They're ready to go to war. They're ready to die for Israel. And they're ready to give you more of their money and their children. And so our top leadership is very much out of touch with what's going on in Main Street America, and in that lies the eventual collapse of the U.S. government. They don't know what's really going on out here. They're being kept blind deliberately by their own staffers and aides who don't want to lose their jobs for having messed it up this bad.
Well, that always happens. With Hitler, up until the day before he blew his head off in the bunker, if you believe that official story, the point is they really thought they were going to win the war up until 24 hours before. They were delusional. And I see this more and more. I mean, the worm has turned. I know we're going to win. It's just going to be hellish and bloody and painful, and I would rather not go that route. But power corrupts, and the establishment just thinks they're invincible. And you're right that history shows that they're just repeating the same thing. So how do you see this shaking out, Mike?
I am absolutely convinced that the U.S. government is going to collapse in the manner of the USSR, and we need to study what the Russians did that worked and what the Russians did that did not work. We need to avoid their mistakes. We need to go through our own equivalent of kicking out the oligarchs and putting our nation back on a solid financial track. I mean, look how quickly Putin managed to pay off Russia's debt once they had a working economy that wasn't burdened with centuries of reckless debt.
And let's get this straight. He's not perfect. I mean, we're certainly not. But the point is, exactly, if we debate liberal conservative, nothing's ever going to... You must kick the bankers out. You must arrest them. They're the real government. You must end the Fed. Anything else is cosmetic, and that's... Stay there, Mike. I want to get your take on that when we get back. 2 more segments with Mike Rivero, jamming a few of your phone calls. We got the Camp FEMA folks coming up with big developments on that front. Stay with us.
E-cigarettes.
And with a foolish grin is keeping perfectly still.
Mike, I want to take some calls in the couple segments we've got left with you. But just briefly going back to the flu. I mean, we know it's a fraud. We know it's a moneymaker. We know the UN's using it as a way to test global government. They've bragged and said that the whole world under UN command on the flu response to the level 6 that they issue when it's not even really a level 6 with the number of cases or deaths. What do you think the overall motive? I mean, was it just profit and power grab? Or do you think in your spidey sense they're planning to really go wild with this and really release something more deadly? Or do they know the nasal spray live virus is going to mutate? They say they know it is, but do they know it's going to mutate into something really bad? I mean, there are a bunch of eugenicists that say they want to kill us. Could this be their global crisis? 100 million people dead?
Well, I think they're definitely trying to create a global crisis in order to justify the bringing on of global government. They wanted to do that with global warming, human-caused global warming, the idea being that if there was a global environmental crisis, it had to have a global controlling authority. That one fell flat on its face because the Earth is actually getting cooler, and the scientific underpinnings of human-caused global warming have basically all been destroyed over the last couple of years. So, okay, global warming isn't going to work. Let's come up with a new crisis. It's the Hegelian dialectic all over again. They're looking to create a global crisis of some kind that will justify or at least sell to the people of the world the necessity for a global government, whether it's a global economic crash, a global flu pandemic, global warming, aliens invading, whatever they think is going to work, that's what they're going to do.
By the way, that's declassified, as you just said, Project Bluebeam. They don't declassify the details, but they admit they've got a fake alien landing project to unify humanity with big hologram machines if they have to. But absolutely, they need a global crisis to offer their global solution. Their latest fear-mongering, I'm sure you saw from the UN, is carbon dioxide is going to make the ocean turn into acid. Yes.
Well, technically, it's already acid because it's carbonic acid, which is the same thing you have in mineral water. And again, they're taking a minor scientific truth and they're blowing it up to be this big, scary threat. But the bottom line is that the Earth is always changing, the climate is always changing, the chemistry is always changing. It never stays the same. This idea that if there's a global government that we will lock the Earth in this particular configuration at some arbitrary definition of what is ideal is absolutely nonsense. It is artificial.
Exactly. Let me throw this at you. I watch on HBO Bill Maher's show sometimes because they air it all the time. Every show he shows the wildfires in L.A. and says this is global warming when they've always had wildfires in L.A. And now I've talked to the police out there and it's on their news. Crazy arsonists go and set fires everywhere, and they have overbuilt out there. And you've got people setting fires. And then he showed a dust storm in Australia and said it was the end of the world. They've always had dust storms out of the interior of Australia. I mean, these guys will take a tornado, a tsunami, an earthquake. They're worse than Pat Robertson. You know, I mean,
they really are. Anything that happens, blame it on the villain that we're trying to sell you the solution to, and it's absolutely correct. And the bottom line, though, is that the Earth is actually cooling, and it's being driven by the sun. The actual forces involved in controlling the temperature of the Earth are so far beyond the capabilities of humans to deal with or adjust or influence. It's just another excuse to sell us another governmental control, to sell us another tax, to take more money from us, to control our lives even more. Leave us alone. That's the message from the people of planet Earth to the globalists. Leave us alone. Go conquer Mars if you want to rule a planet. Go bother them. Leave us alone.
Well, you know, the thing is, I know 300 Earths will fit in Jupiter. Google the term, how many Earths will fit in the sun? You got this giant fireball. I think it's several thousand. You've got this giant fireball that burns your skin if you're out in it too much. And they're saying, oh, that has nothing to do. The UN officially says nothing to do with the climate. Yeah.
Gen Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
I know you can fit 3,000 Earths in Jupiter, so we looked up the number. It's 1,206,885 Earths will fit inside the sun. It's a gigantic hydrogen thermonuclear explosion fireball. It shoots off sunspot eruptions thousands of times the size of the Earth every day. If you're out there and just the radiation of a solar flare will hit you, it'll fry you in your spacesuit deader than a hammer. And they get on the news, and I've got it in the official UN documents, and they say the sun has nothing to do with the climate. And they also tell you polar bears can't swim and show them out on ice floes where they hunt for seals. Folks, they treat you like you're a complete moron, okay? There's nothing we can do to affect climate change like the sun. Carbon dioxide. Mike, have you been seeing the ads on TV saying, watch out, carbon dioxide's deadly poison? I mean, how dumb do they think the public is?
Well, they apparently think the public are very, very dumb, and the bottom line is that right now the sun is showing hardly any sunspots at all, which means it's actually cooler than normal. And one thing that we have discovered from all these spacecraft that we've sent to other planets, like we sent Viking to Mars back in 1976, and we've had all these spacecraft out there, and we have documented many, many times that the other planets are heating up and cooling down exactly the same time as Earth is, in the same amounts, and it's obviously the only common factor is the solar radiation here. Now, we already know that when Al Gore did his famous little graph showing Earth's temperature related to carbon dioxide, that he actually got them backward, that the Earth's temperature went up first, then there was more carbon dioxide, because warmer water was giving up its carbon dioxide for the same reason that warm soda pop does, and as the Earth got warmer, there was more life. Life produced more carbon dioxide. So the linkage is actually the reverse.
Now, let me stop you for people that don't know. He knowingly, because all the ice cores, all the climatologists, it's on record that carbon dioxide, because the H2O is part CO2, when the Earth heats up, then more carbon dioxide comes out, then that accelerates plant life, more oxygen. That's a blooming for the Earth. It's very hard on the Earth when it's cold for overall biomass. They knew all of that and just lied about it. And it's just like you leave a Coca-Cola in a can in your hot car, it's going to explode because the CO2 rises in the heat. Al Gore knows that. He didn't invent the internet. He told you NAFTA and GATT were going to be great. They weren't, were they, Mike?
No, they absolutely weren't. And just to show you how much, the reason why I think this global warming hype was linked to the push for a global government is, look, they gave him the Nobel Peace Prize. They gave him all these film awards to say what a wonderful documentary it was. It's a hard sell, hard sell, hard sell to sell you the lie that you are to blame for the reason the planet is getting worse, and therefore you must submit to global control and global taxation in order to atone for your sins. That's what the agenda was there. And since that's not working out and people aren't falling for the global warming anymore, they're switching over to the swine flu and global financial crisis. The goal is a global government, and they're going to use any excuse they can come up with.